The next time you lift a garden pot and see a small army of grey armoured creatures scattering into the shadows, do not crush them. Most people see a pest. They see something dirty, something creepy, something that doesn't belong in a healthy garden. But what you are actually looking at is one of the oldest and most underrated cleanup crews on Earth. Hidden beneath your feet is a biological system so ancient, so efficient, and so strangely intelligent that scientists are still studying how it works today. And the tiny creature responsible for it, the roly-poly, also known as the pillbug, doodlebug, potato bug, or woodlouse. But first, forget everything you think you know about them, because the roly-poly is not an insect. It is not related to ants, termites, cockroaches, beetles, or spiders. Scientifically known as Armadillidium vulgar, the roly-poly is actually a crustacean. Yes, a crustacean. That means this tiny armored creature crawling under your flower pots is more closely related to lobsters, crabs, and shrimp than to any insect in your garden. Millions of years ago, their ancestors lived entirely underwater. Long before humans existed, long before dinosaurs disappeared, these creatures were already surviving in the oceans. Then something extraordinary happened. Some ancient crustaceans slowly adapted to life on land. But, unlike insects, they never completely abandoned their aquatic biology. Even today, roly-polies still carry pieces of the ocean inside them. That's why they need moisture to survive. They don't breathe through lungs. They breathe through specialized gill-like structures located underneath their bodies. If those structures dry out, they suffocate. That's why you always find them in dark, damp places, under rocks, inside decaying wood, beneath leaf litter, and under flower pots. They aren't hiding from you because they are dangerous. They are hiding because sunlight can literally kill them. And yet, despite being so fragile, these tiny creatures perform one of the most important jobs in your entire ecosystem. They are nature's recyclers. Every dead leaf, every rotting plant stem, every piece of decaying organic matter in your garden, the roly-poly helps break it down. While humans spend billions managing waste, these creatures have quietly perfected decomposition for millions of years. As they feed on dead material, they accelerate nutrient cycling in the soil. Without decomposers like them, forests would drown in layers of dead plants. Soil would become compacted and lifeless. New growth would slow. Entire ecosystems would collapse under their own waste. But the roly-poly keeps the cycle moving, quietly, constantly, without recognition. And what scientists discovered next made them even more remarkable. Urban and suburban soils are often contaminated with toxic heavy metals: lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, zinc. These pollutants come from decades of industrial activity, vehicle emissions, old paint, pesticides, treated wood, and chemical runoff. And unlike many toxins, heavy metals do not disappear over time. They remain trapped in the soil for decades, even centuries. Plants absorb them through their roots. Vegetables can carry traces into your food. Tiny amounts enter the food chain year after year. But hidden in the dirt beneath your garden is a creature doing something almost unbelievable. Roly-polies consume decaying material contaminated with these toxic metals. Then specialized cells inside their bodies capture the metal ions and trap them permanently. Scientists discovered that they can crystallize heavy metals into tiny mineral deposits inside their exoskeleton and tissues. In other words, they lock dangerous toxins away inside themselves. They are essentially living biofilters. Nature designed a microscopic hazardous waste cleanup system, and most people crush it under their shoes. Researchers studying soil ecology have found that woodlice can significantly reduce the movement of contaminants through certain ecosystems. That means the tiny grey creature you ignored yesterday may actually be helping protect your soil today. And their abilities don't stop there. Even the way they defend themselves is a masterpiece of engineering. When threatened, some species roll themselves into a perfect sphere. That's why people call them roly-polies. But this behavior is far more sophisticated than it looks. Their segmented exoskeleton plates interlock with astonishing precision. Each armored section distributes force evenly across the sphere, protecting their vulnerable underside from predators. It's lightweight, flexible, shock-resistant, compact. Engineers studying biomimicry technology inspired by nature have examined structures like these to improve robotic designs, flexible armor systems, and impact-resistant materials. The same mechanics that protect a roly-poly from being crushed are inspiring innovations in robotics and aerospace engineering. Imagine that! A creature smaller than your thumbnail helping shape the future of space exploration. And yet most people still think they are useless pests. But the truth is, a garden filled with roly-polies is usually a sign of life. Healthy soil is never silent. Beneath every thriving garden exists an invisible civilization of decomposers, fungi, microbes, worms, mites, beetles, and crustaceans, all working together in complete balance. The roly-poly is one of the workers holding that entire underground economy together. Without decomposers, dead matter would pile endlessly across the earth. Nutrients would remain trapped. Plants would starve. The natural cycle of life and death would break apart. The roly-poly helps prevent that disaster every single day. And unlike many pests, they rarely damage healthy plants. Most of the time, they prefer dead and decaying material. In fact, if you see large numbers of them, it often means your soil has plenty of organic matter and moisture, two signs of a biologically active environment. Now yes, under certain conditions, roly-polies can nibble on soft seedlings, strawberries, or delicate roots. But that usually happens only when their environment becomes unbalanced or overcrowded. In most cases, they are beneficial residents, not enemies. Yet humans have developed a habit of destroying anything that looks unfamiliar, especially creatures that live in darkness. But darkness does not mean danger. Some of the most important workers in nature are invisible. Think about earthworms. For centuries, people overlooked them too. Then scientists realized worms were transforming soil fertility from below. Charles Darwin himself spent decades studying worms and called them one of the most important creatures in Earth's history. The roly-poly deserves similar respect, because beneath its tiny armored shell is an evolutionary success story spanning hundreds of millions of years. Think about how incredible that is. This creature survived mass extinctions. It survived shifting continents, ice ages, volcanic catastrophes, asteroid impacts, climate changes that wiped out giant species. And after all that, it ended up hiding under your backyard flower pot, still working, still cleaning, still recycling the earth. Nature rarely wastes energy. If a species survives for millions of years, it usually serves an important purpose. The roly-poly is proof of that. And here's something even stranger. These creatures are surprisingly social. Roly-polies often gather in groups to conserve moisture and protect themselves from drying out. Scientists believe they communicate using chemical signals and touch. Some species even show collective behavior patterns when searching for shelter. Tiny brains, tiny bodies, yet remarkably coordinated survival strategies. And despite their armored appearance, They are harmless to humans. They don't bite. They don't sting. They don't spread disease like mosquitoes or flies. In fact, they spend most of their lives quietly cleaning the environment around you. Children are often fascinated by them because they roll into little balls when touched. But maybe that fascination is important. Maybe it teaches something adults forget. Curiosity, respect for small life, wonder for the hidden systems keeping the world alive. Because modern society trains people to notice only large things, large animals, large disasters, large technologies, large achievements, but ecosystems are built by tiny workers. Microbes create oxygen, bees pollinate crops, fungi recycle forests, and roly-polies quietly detoxify soil beneath our feet. The world survives because millions of small organisms do jobs humans barely notice. And the moment those organisms disappear, entire systems begin collapsing. Scientists are already warning about biodiversity loss across the planet. Insects are declining. Soil health is deteriorating. Pollinators are disappearing. And when the small creatures vanish, the consequences spread upward through the entire food chain. Healthy soil becomes weaker. Plants struggle. Animals lose food sources. Human agriculture suffers. Everything is connected. That tiny roly-poly under your pot is not separate from your life. It is part of the same system, feeding your garden, supporting your food, and recycling your environment. So, what should you do if you want these creatures helping your garden naturally? First, avoid using broad-spectrum pesticides whenever possible. Many chemical sprays kill beneficial organisms alongside harmful pests. Second, keep parts of your garden biologically alive. Leave some leaf litter. Use mulch. Add compost. Maintain healthy moisture in the soil. A perfectly sterile yard may look clean, but biologically, it can become a dead zone. Nature thrives through diversity. Third, stop seeing every crawling creature as an enemy. A balanced ecosystem contains decomposers, predators, pollinators, fungi, and microorganisms, all interacting together. When you destroy one piece unnecessarily, the balance weakens. And finally, teach children to observe instead of fear. A child who learns to respect tiny life often grows into an adult who respects nature itself. Because the truth is, humans are not separate from ecosystems. We depend on them completely. Every breath, every harvest, every forest, every river. All supported by millions of unseen organisms working silently in the background. The roly-poly is one of those workers. Tiny, ancient, misunderstood. A miniature crustacean carrying the memory of the ocean beneath your garden soil. So the next time you lift a flower pot and see those little armored bodies scattering into the dark, pause for a moment. Because beneath your feet is not a swarm of pests. It is an ancient cleanup crew older than humanity itself. Tiny recyclers transforming death into life. Living filters trapping pollution from the earth. Miniature engineers inspiring future technology. And quiet proof that some of the most important creatures on this planet are also the easiest to overlook. So maybe, instead of crushing them, thank them, because while humans sleep, these tiny custodians continue working in the darkness, cleaning, recycling, protecting, and holding the ecosystem together one dead leaf at a time.